Okay. everything's
No,
good?
that's fine.
Oh, that makes sense. Yes, sir. Oh, I was so. Insane.
Set up to, if you want to call them tonight, I can call them anything by.
The only thing you don't have is the, oh, okay. Okay, sent this afternoon. Yeah, okay. Thank you, sir.
Right, we don't want it talking to me. So-
I think.
Thirty, Yeah. it might be 30 now.
You don't get your way.
Hold on.
No, I don't. Yeah, that's. As a hundred.
I can't.
I was. John, are we live? Ready? Call the meeting to order. Item 1B, pledge of allegiance. No. Item number 2, open forum. The council will allow Lincoln residents or Lincoln taxpayers to comment prior to council action on agenda items. Individuals wishing to be heard by council will be recognized by the council chair. The individual must identify themselves to the council by first and last name and/or business owner. After identifying themselves, the speaker may make brief comments regarding items on the agenda that do not have a public hearing. The council chair may set a time limit on length of public comment and/or a time limit for individual speakers. Anybody on this side? Bill?
Bill Chubbett, Lincoln. I've heard a lot about counselors in the last meeting. I would prefer not to rehash any of that. Thank you very much. But when you go through the budget, what I would like to see, if you could, whether it be Mr. Schaefer's budget, Mr. Island's budget, or the first budget, if whoever is presenting that could, or a department head could say what effect on their department, they very briefly, if they could tell us that what that would do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Will. Anybody else on this side?
I may not see eye to eye with you on your views, but I really do appreciate you providing that transparency for us. The second thing, I'd like to second what Bill said about getting a little bit of theory on how the reduction will affect the department when we get to that part. And last, I'd just like to draw our attention to part of the reason why we're having such disgruntlement with this whole entire budget process this year. It's because that, you know, if you just look down through the second page of the Town of Lincoln budget process statement that was attached to the agenda, it says in number 2 that we are supposed to have town council members make limited, simple amendments to the town manager budget. And I just don't feel that that's what's happened with part of the proposals. These aren't simple amendments. These are huge gashing cuts. And sometimes less is more. You got to start somewhere. I do want my taxes cut. That's why I voted for some people here. But we have to remember that we can't just take huge chunks out. A 13% cut, I think it was the original estimate, it's not going to happen. It's not, even though I want cuts, that's not what I want. And I certainly don't want to stab the heart of our community. So please keep that in mind as we go through this process. Again, I appreciate all of you. I do hope that I have come across as respectful to all of you, because that is what I am trying to do. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to see this information, to have these conversations, and I hope tonight's meeting goes very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a procedural item as town attorney, council chair Clay. For those who can read the text of the open forum, these are for comments that don't relate to the budget, because the budget is getting a public hearing tonight. I appreciate there may be comments, but I agree with the past 2 speakers who said they want detail and they want specifics. And I think the way to get to those is to get to the budget. So I would just object to folks coming up and talking about the budget, because they're going to get full opportunity to say anything they want to about the budget in just about 2 minutes.
Hi, Kelly Ryder, Lincoln. Also appreciated your Facebook post today, Dr. Street. And I just really wanted everybody to take a minute to thank the budget committee. It is a very hard committee to be a part of. I've been on some different committees for the town, and I can tell you that I would be like, not it, for the budget committee. And they have shown up to every single meeting, been respectful, and they work incredibly hard to make a very good budget for the town. So I just hope everybody appreciates them and their hard work and volunteerism as much as I do. Thank you.
Anybody else on this side of the room? This side over here, Bobby?
happen. But I would expect that the same information is presented at each hearing. If I couldn't make it last week, but I can make it this week, I'm seeing completely different information. If I was able to make it last week, but I couldn't make it this week, I truly did not get to attend a public hearing. So if the intent of the public hearing is to provide 2 opportunities for voters to hear the budget that's being presented and voted on, I don't feel that you have met that with what you've done last week and this week. Can anybody answer that?
Council? Gord?
Version of the budget on my computer that I can put up on the screen. If there are any changes and stuff, I'm ready to do that. If any, it's set up so that, I've got each department separately, so you don't have a huge spreadsheet on the thing. And, if anybody wants to ever ask for it along the way, I can pop it up. Oh, and one change from the budget that I sent out last night, budget information is because, Wade changed one item, the personnel line. Right. Yes. And I have corrected that on mine, so it matches.
Is that here right now, because we're going to cover the information that Ms. Storman asked about and the 2 prior speakers asked about. And if we put anything up online and start making further changes, I'm going to remind everybody in this room of the requirements, as Ms. Storman said, of section 602. There's no more amendments. We're done with amendments. We have so confused the public with all the amendments. We need to just settle down and explain the amendments that will be before us tonight. So we've got 3 of those. I'll get to it in a moment, but I just wanted to caution both speakers and the council, don't put up something as though you're going to amend on the fly. We're done. 602 says we're done. So tonight is the last component of the presentation because there was notice given of the July 6th meeting. There was a presentation on July 6th. Notice of the July 15th meeting with the budget amendments was given. We're meeting on July 15th. All of those amendments, both for the town manager budget as amended and the June 22 budget as amended as of July 6th by Councillor Ireland, have been presented. There can be no more, based on notice and opportunity to be heard, there can be no more amendments. We're done. And I'm happy to address that by either a councillor or any member of the public, but we're done. And so we're going to talk about the amendments that have been presented for this evening. And we're going to do it in a way that is responsive to the July 6th materials. So if you miss that, you'll still get information about that. You'll get the July 15 materials, and then it would be before the council to make a decision on the 22nd of July. But if you have too many choices, sometimes you never make a decision. And I think it's time for the council to get ready to make a decision. July 22. And this is the last budget hearing. So I'm happy to give the intro when we get into the budget, but I think unless there are any more comments that are not related to the budget that need to be made by the public, we should get to it. Thank you. There you go. Could be. Okay. Okay.
Okay, item. Adjourned on July 6th. We did not actually close that public hearing, so that's a like real to close it. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? 6-0. 7-0. Sorry. Item 4, final summary and clarification of the FY 27 budget as amended by Councilor Ireland. Do you have anything you want to say? I'll close that public hearing then. 5, process statement as to the budget for the July 15th public hearing and the July 22nd final determination vote. Andy, is that what you wanted to?
Settle our tone right down and just say that I think there's been enough confusion. Hopefully tonight we get to clarity. So I'm going to be very even keeled about what you have as an attachment to the agenda. But I want to share from a town attorney's perspective what I thought was necessary to get the council and the budget process back on track, because it was badly off track. The Lincoln Town Charter in section 602 directs that the town manager's budget is the base budget for the town. The Lincoln Town Charter further directs that the Lincoln Town Council's authority as to the budget shall be limited to making simple amendments to the Lincoln Town manager's budget. There has never in the history that I've been with the town for over 30 years advising the town, a budget process like this one. And I know why it's been contentious. Strong positions were taken before and during this process. Third, the public is entitled to notice an opportunity to be heard under section 602 of the town charter, particularly if the town council or any member makes amendments to the town manager's budget after public hearings and before the town council finally determines or approves the town budget. Simple amendments discussed with the public during public hearings are in order for final determination by the town council. On June 29th, the town council unanimously voted 6-0, all members present, to suspend and reconsider the June 22nd vote to approve the budget because there had been inadequate notice and opportunity by the public to be heard under Charter Section 602 as to proposed council amendments and or revisions. The motion made by Councillor Ireland and seconded by Councillor Hannington and approved by a 6-0 vote of the town council directed the town council to hold 2 public hearings on July 6th and July 15th with a final budget determination or adoption vote to take place on July 22nd. During the evening of June 29th, I heard Councillor Moisen ask, and then all councillors present, that they wanted to see the town manager go to department heads, have discussion with department heads about final budget amendments. During the interim, there was a suggestion that we look at a 5% number. In presenting the budget, the council vote in effect directed that these budget presentations be presented at the public hearings. The first budget, and I refer to it as the base budget. If you look at 602 of the budget, the header for that section is town manager prepares and submits budget. Why do you suppose it says that? Because that's what the people directed in the charter. The town manager prepares and submits the budget. This process has been somewhat difficult because we've had transitions in town managers. We're fortunate that the current town manager has stuck with this process and has stuck with you, council, and with the public. And he is a very open person. He's very good and he's very kind and he works well with people. For an interim town manager, you've got a pretty good person. But to learn this budget and all of the process in the charter is a pretty awesome task. So I was asked to help out. So again, the base budget is the first one. That's column A or column 1. That's the town manager's budget, unchanged. And it will remain unchanged because that is the formative document that 602 refers to. That's the town manager's budget. The second budget column that you'll see, column B or column 2, whichever you want to use as either a letter or a number designation, is the June 22 budget revision in the amount specified in July 6 notice that was provided from Councillor Ireland to the town clerk, and she cut and pasted into the July 6 notice. So the amount for that budget is recited as $9,856,660. There was a proposal to change that number, but it relied on TIF changes, inclusion of TIF monies that the council heard folks on Monday night was inappropriate to include. So we stood on $9,856,660 as the number when you total up the budget elements for that one. You will note in each of the base budget and in the July 2nd budget that was then published as part of the July 6th notice, it was published on July 2, the number 9,856,660. But you'll also note that for each of the departments, a breakdown was given by department. And you can see to the right of that, the percentage reduction from column A. In other words, if there were reduction to department budgets, which goes to both cost, and I know the council as a majority is focused on cost right now, but it also affects level of service. And I would have every member of the public focus really on two objective criterion. What's the effect on the base budget? Cost savings. Secondly, how deep are those cost savings in terms of effect on level of service? The council has a fiduciary duty to the public to make sure that you are tight with a budget. A budget is designed as a planning document, and that you plan for continuation of town without severely impacting town services. So look to those two categories: cost savings by percentage, and then the effect on level of service. Finally, the third column is proposed changes from the town manager and department heads to the base budget developed as to each department after conferring with town department heads. You should see that first handout on the chair. If you don't have something entitled Town of Lincoln Municipal Budget Comparison, you don't have a tool that you need. And I would ask you to step over to that chair to my left, far left, and just grab a copy of that. The town manager budget amendments are being presented on July 15th in the form of a side-by-side comparison of the town manager's base budget. That's the summary document that is the other handout. And it reports that the three figures are: the manager's budget as presented was and remains $11,589,834. The July 6th budget presentation was for a budget of $9,856,660. The dollar reduction from the original was $1,733,174. I understand town staff has looked at that from 6 different calculations, and they all sum to a 14.95% reduction. Finally, in the far right of that summary sheet is the manager's budget as amended July 15, 2026. Mr. Schaefer is here and can answer questions about department by department figures. Totals $11,010,181. That is a $579,653 reduction from the original, which results in a 5% reduction from the original. I do want to comment briefly that one of the good things that happened through this process that Councillor Ireland initiated by proposing cuts is that some non-personnel cuts and some capital cost deferment was identified. Specifically, a $175,000 fire truck was identified in this latest round by your town manager and by the fire chief. That's the type of reduction where if you can defer in a tight year, you defer and you don't affect personnel. So I would just say I, the town manager, and the town council, all three, thank the public for its patience as the council works through this process before a final budget determination approval is voted on July 22nd. You will find that the materials address all the prior speakers' questions. Please digest them and direct your comments to them. They will be helpful to you. Thank you.
Purpose of hearing all comment on three comparative budget presentations. A, town manager's base budget, B, FY 27 budget as amended by Councilor Ireland, and C, town manager's budget as amended. So moved. Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? 7-0. Open at 6:25. Okay. Okay, I'll start on this side of the room again. Any questions or comments? On the, you, Wade, why don't you make a presentation first? Yeah, that's a good idea. That way you can share.
I think, I mean, I need this in front of me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gordon is gonna share the other one.
Okay, yeah,
You want me to do that in here real quick?
Sure.
For the people at home?
All right.
Yeah, give me 2 seconds.
no problem.
You're gonna take it like that.
Sure.
The original package.
You're not done yet, sorry. Check that, Sean. So the process for this was as a result of, as you all know, the council meeting a few weeks back, asking if I can find some sort of compromise between what was proposed by Councilor Island and what I originally had as a manager's base budget that was presented on June 22nd. So I did meet with each of the department heads, some of them multiple times, to try to come up with as much of a cut as we could. I will, anyways, we go through the process. The goal was to try to cut anything I could that didn't involve personnel. And that was what the goal was for me personally. Not that I didn't want to do what the council had asked, but I thought that that was an important way to look at it. And so that was the direction that I went in talking with the department heads. So for the town manager budget, for the first tab, the first one you're going to see, there is no change, and I will tell you why. It has nothing to do with me. I know it sounds like, and it seems self-serving, but it is not. If you look at what the original was for that department request, The original was for 143,000, and what I presented was already down to 98,000 because I, with the agreement I had with the council, what my pay would be. So that's why that was already dropped. I couldn't see anything else that I could realistically take out of there. The only other larger expenditure in that is, what's it called? Contractual services. And that is something that I, as a new town manager, I'm definitely going to need, as I work through this learning curve that I'm in. So that's why that's not changed from the 22nd of June. The next one, we'll go down to the clerk. In talking with Ann about this position, we came to a place where she thought she could just get it down as far as she could. Yes, it's about 7,000 less than what was presented. But that really is, in talking with her, looking at everything that goes on in the front office, you're dealing with meetings here, special meetings, elections, everything that's involved with her department. I just felt that was a realistic number, and honestly, might be a little bit on the moderate side for how it might affect her department negatively as a result of being down that far. But as everybody has tried to do, is get on board and make everything as tight as we possibly can. Should I ask, do you want to ask for questions per, or just go through the whole thing? Okay. Okay. Same thing with the finance department. You're not going to find really anything went down. And the reason is because I did not know until Monday where we were going to be with the financial department, what we were going to have a pay rate for a treasurer. Well, we did find a treasurer. So it dropped slightly, but it didn't drop a lot. Not as much as I would like it to, but I couldn't see where else that it made sense to take out of that department. What I learned in going through this is how much in the treasurer's department and Ann's department, the same way as a clerk, that even though these budgets are there, they're not for their department specifically. There are other departments that benefit from this going out. And that was eye-opening to me. I didn't realize all of that. But anyways, that's in there. So that one didn't change a lot. I promise I'm getting to where it's changed. The assessing changed in the direction that feel like it needed to go. And that was putting money back in there for an assessor. It is a mandated position by the state or something along that lines. It's something we have to have. And so that has been put back in there as a result. Code enforcement. The only place we could really cut a lot out of, and we did, was training. I am thankful that Denton is motivated as he is. Denton Trotter, as our code enforcement officer, he went through and he got all of his certifications completed as of last week. I think that's awesome. As a result of that, he felt like he could take less money in training for the upcoming fiscal year. So that's where the biggest portion was cut, was from training, because his recertifications come up in a few years, not every year. And so we felt we could make that change without affecting that department adversely. Police department, you will see there is a change in there from what was requested. I'm sorry, I need to make a clarification. Counselor Street, if you wouldn't mind putting up maybe what yours is. As I was doing this budget, I was changing what the department manager's request was as well as mine at the same time on some of these. I shouldn't have done that. That was on me. By the time I realized that today, I didn't have time to go back and make it right in here. But we do have the right numbers for that. So they originally asked for I will find it. Bear with me just one moment. They originally asked for 1,757,143. And thanks to Chief Lee, he honestly took a lot of this on himself, looking to see where he could cut and gave me the numbers. He brought it down to 1,522,625. So he did take a significant cut in there. A part of that cut is removing the resource officer from his budget. And so it did cut a position, and it also not hiring another position for at least 6 months. That he's not going to do that. So there's 1.5 positions that right now he is not filling at this point. On that note, I know we're not there yet, but when we get to the personnel tab or part of this, that's where I'm saying the $30,000 in reduction is going to come from. Because there's about, it was told to me from a former treasurer for the town that it was about $20,000 per employee average, what those benefits cost the town per employee. So that's where I get my $30,000 from out of the personnel, was 20,000 for the full-time SRO that's now been removed, and for the half a year of not having someone in one of those slots. Next one goes down to the fire department. And as I was talking with Chief Brown about this, 80%, approximately 80% of his expense is payroll. That's what the majority of his expense is. And so trying to find a place to cut was very difficult as a result of how I was viewing trying to find these cuts and trying not to cut personnel. As a result, you're going to see a very minor reduction, and that came out of his training budget of I believe it was $10,000 out of his training budget. So it went from $2,093,834 down to $2,083,854. As a result of that, though, we did take money out in consulting with Chief Lee out of the fire station tab, which is the next one down. That went from 86,350 down to 61,700. What that potentially affects is repairs on the doors in order for the, as I understand it, and Chief Brown can speak to this more if you need clarification, but it has to do with the overhead doors for the fire trucks, ambulances coming in and out. Those do break down, and a part of it had to do with maintenance for the wall and the floors within the main part of the fire station. So those took a cut in each of those in order to try to come up with a total budget reduction. The next one, utilities and municipal services, there is nothing I can do in that, unfortunately, that I'm aware of. And if anybody has suggestions after this budget season, I will take your suggestions if there's things we can do different, but there was nothing in there that I knew of. Public Works took a fair amount of the deductions themselves, and I really want to thank George Briggs for working very hard with me on this. We met multiple times in trying to find places, as I did with Chief Miller and Chief Brown and other department heads. But we went from, the original amount was in Public Works, $1,288,048. We went down to $1,049,888. If you want to know what effect that potentially will have on the budget, it can affect, not being dramatic in any way, shape, or form. It can affect snow removal in the winter. It can affect getting equipment fixed. We took money out of his dozer rehab that takes place each year. So things that go along with that, we took money out of, see, George, I knew I should have wrote this down. In the capital, oh, I should have, sorry, remind me to go back to the fire department in capital. But for the Public Works in capital, we took out money for portable lights that would, those ones that you see where you have the stop lights that are portable. We took money out for that, which is what they could use for some of their projects, so they wouldn't have to have flaggers. But there was about $69,000 in a particular line item that we took out, that most of that was for those lights. So we took that out for this year. George, help me out. What else did we take out? Where you at? How much? $55. Okay, 55,000 out of contractual services, that he felt like that he could cut that down on there. So it is going to affect some work that can be done. Potentially, that's why I was asked to let you know what the effects are, on a non-effect, moderate or severe. And for that, I would place that as kind of a moderate effect. Of course, if we're in the middle of winter, you have anybody to plow, I guess that would be severe. So, but we didn't have to get rid of any personnel, but he is in the process of hiring somebody. And he's also in the process of somebody who, out of their willingness to help the town, who's an employee, use benefits that they have from the military to go get their license. I hope I'm okay to say publicly, to go get their Class A license to help us out, who is a current employee with the town. So, with that department. So I'm really thankful for that. Because of those things, that's how we were able to come up with the cuts. I do need to go back to the fire department because it was mentioned earlier. One of the areas we cut was in capital for the fire department. The budget committee said, hey, you guys really need to work on getting money set aside for a fire truck. So so they recommended putting 175,000 in. So I put that in for my budget, but because of not finding where else to take money from, I did take that back out in order to hopefully not lay anybody off. And part of my reason for not laying people off, I gotta be honest, it's gonna be a nightmare. I'm just saying. It's gonna be a nightmare for the town, in the union contracts, because you can't, as a private employer, I was an at-will workplace. If I want to let somebody go, I can let them go. That isn't how it works in this particular setting, and there's a lot more to it, and it's very costly from what I understand. Whether I'm supposed to say that or not, don't know, just telling you what I know. So that's part of that. So we took the $175,000 out for the fire truck in order to achieve a budget reduction. And that was done in consultation with Chief Brown. No, he was not really for it, but what else were we gonna do? All right, where am I at here? I am at transfer station. That's where I am. That pretty much stayed the same. If I remember correctly, let me double check my numbers. Public transfer station, 587. Some reason my number's slightly lower, and I don't remember what I did right this second. I'm sorry, but it's pretty close to what the motion was back on the 22nd. Let me go. George, do you remember what I did? I know I did something, but I don't know what I did. Hopefully it doesn't affect anything at the transfer station. Sorry, Tim. All right, but it's not that much, so it's just a little bit. Let's see if I can see it in the numbers right quick. Oh, I think Tim came and talked to me, right, Tim? You can help me with this. I think we talked about going, no, we didn't. That was last year's. We dropped last year's to this year's. Yeah, never mind. I'm just floundering, so we're gonna forget it. I did something. I can't tell you what I did right this second. I'm gonna go to landfill. I'm gonna shut up now. That stayed the same at 1,500. That takes us social service, general assistance. The only thing I want to say here, I didn't feel like this was an area I could cut. The biggest increase for this came as a result, and I did tell this to the budget committee when we went through this. The biggest increase on this, I believe, was because our contract with the Humane Society went up by, I forget the amount off the top of my head. It was like $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 year over year to what it was last year. And that's something that we didn't have a whole lot of options in. That was just a letter from them saying, here you go, this is what it's going to be this year. There were no negotiations with that. Cemetery, parks and recreation was originally 315,718. We dropped that down to 303,015. I will say a complaint was made with me about why there weren't lifeguards on Sundays at the beach. The reason is because I told my staff that until we know what's going on, I would base everything on the least amount, the lowest budget possible, and go from there. So that's what I explained to the individual. That was the reason why They don't thought that was a good explanation, but the rec director did exactly what I told him to do. He based it on a lower number than the manager's proposed budget. So that's the reason why. So if you want to know about what do any of these potential budgets have to do, it already affects that one department based on what I told him to be thinking about, and he did do that. All right, library, I believe is pretty much unchanged. Let me double check to make sure I'm right there. 192,786, 192,786. Personnel is at 2,186,983 was my original request. That's where the $30,000 is coming from. So that would really be down to 2,156,983 with those benefits that are not being paid to the 1.5 positions that aren't going to be filled. Airport, we went from $88,452 down to $85,452. It wasn't a huge drop, but there isn't a lot there. A good portion of that is the amount of fuel that's purchased, and then that comes back in revenue when people fly in and purchase the fuel there. So that's where a good portion of that is from. Other things are, we have to keep up on things. We can't cut certain things because of the grants and how they're tied to those parts of it at the airport. Debt service, don't have a lot of control over at this point. So capital investments, what you're going to see in capital investments. Right. Was originally 1,101,807. You're going to see that that says 1,120,313, which is a slight increase, only because that has to do with we internally moved some things that weren't in some departments' budgets earlier that were now in there and put them back where we thought they belonged. That's why that number looks like that. That brings us down to the bottom. My original budget was 11,589,834. That brings it down to 11,040,181, which represents a 5% decrease in that budget. And not that anybody cares, but that really is a little bit more of an increase when you take into account that we're not accounting for inflation. So just to let you know. I think that's it.
So just to stay coherent with section 602 of the Town of Lincoln Charter, a few questions for you, Council Chair Clay. First is, did you participate in this process by consultation with the department heads and the town manager? Second question, did you confer regularly with the town manager, including as recently as today? And finally, do you understand and acknowledge and adopt these amendments as your own?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a public hearing on the budgets. Do we have any comments on this side? Huh? Yeah, read that letter. Yeah, okay.
This is an email that I received late this afternoon by somebody who can't be here this evening, so I'm going to read this into the minutes. Dear members of the Lincoln Town Council, as the owner of Thornton Brothers Incorporated here in Lincoln, I am writing to share my opposition to the deep budget cuts under consideration ahead of the July 22nd vote, and to ask that the council to reconsider the scale of these reductions. Lincoln has been working hard to rebuild its economic base since the mill's closure, attracting new development, planning new housing, and trying to bring in residents and businesses to grow our tax rolls. That effort depends on Lincoln being seen as a stable, well-run town. Instead, over the past several months, we've had 4 town managers come and go, a budget passed and then suspended amid public outcry, and now a recall campaign against a majority of the council. That instability is not good for business, business confidence. And it is not the message we want to send to anyone considering opening a business or relocating a family here. Deep cuts to core services, particularly public safety, assessing, and other basic town functions, will likely make this worse, not better. A short-term tax reduction does little good if it comes at the cost of the town's ability to function predictably, respond to emergencies, and support the growth Lincoln has been working toward. I recognize the council's desire to hold the line on taxes, and as a business owner, I share that instinct. But I'd like to ask you to weigh that against the risk of undermining the basic services and stability that make Lincoln a place people want to invest in. I hope the council will use the upcoming vote to find a more sustainable middle ground. Thank you for you considering my perspective. Sincerely, Bill Thornton, owner of Thornton Brothers.
All right, do we have anybody on this side of the room? For the public hearing? This side? Yep.
My name is Susan Lappy, and I'm a resident and a taxpayer of Lincoln. If you look up under essential under Google, you'll find that it says absolutely necessary. Examples of essential services are police, fire, paramedics, EMT, hospital doctors, and nurses. When the department head puts in their budget for the year, it is for supplies or material, their personal needs to do their job smoothly and more efficiently, plus wages. By reducing their budget, you are reducing essential services. For those of you who work in the private sector, you hope to get raises every year. Why do you think these folks who work 24/7, weekends, holidays, and in all kinds of weather doesn't deserve a raise every year? Town councilors, you hire the manager. It is the manager's responsibility to hire the employees in the municipality. If an employee is not doing their job, then the town manager needs to replace them with somebody who can. The problem we are having has been going on for several years and is nothing being done to correct it. We need to get competent people to hopefully get these problems corrected and not keep kicking the can down the road. We've already paid people in certain departments to do a job. They have not done their jobs, but we think we need to pay them more money to do the jobs that they haven't done. Thank you.
George Edwards. I'm just gonna say I disagree with the cuts to Public Works. I know everyone is okay with cutting snow removal now. They're not gonna like it come winter. So I would disagree with that. And my second question comes to the transfer station. Are we currently sending trash to the Hampton facility?
Yes.
Yeah, because I know at the last meeting that they came and said, if we do that, we violate our contract and it's gonna cost us $1 million. Did we budget for that? I don't see that in the budget, and like I said, I'm worried that we're gonna be paying a lot more than what's budgeted, so thank you.
Thank you. Rick?
If you're gonna blame somebody, it would be me.
Oh.
If you look at the column where the manager's new amended budget versus his original budget, that should be a negative 5.26 reduction. I really believe that we need a full picture of what this budget is going to do for us. So what is missing is the revenue. Does anybody know what the proposed revenues are going to be? I would guess that that's part of what you need to vote on tonight, if you're going to, or vote on July 22nd. If you're going to vote on the entire budget, you need to vote on everything, which includes the revenues. So if you're going to go with Councillor Ireland's amended budget, you probably would have to reduce some of those revenues, because some of the revenues are based on certain people being able to go on certain EMS runs and things like that. So take a look at those revenues before you finalize the entire budget. Thank you.
No, that's fine. Byron Sanderson, taxpayer, resident of Lincoln. There's a few things I want to touch on. They won't have effect on this budget because we have two things to consider: manager's budget and Councillor Ireland's budget. But can anybody tell me what happened November of 2015 to the town of Lincoln? Does that ring a bell with anybody? Correct. The mill shut down November 2015. Can somebody tell me, since 2015, did the town tighten their belt at all in expenditures? Well, that's interesting, because how do we get to our taxes doubling since then? But anyways, if you remember when town manager Bill Lawrence was here, we had a transfer committee that was tasked with trying to reduce that. And at that same time, we had Casella come in and do presentations. We turned down Casella with the opportunity to take over the transfer building, not run by the town, taxpayers' money not going into it, running by Casella charging people for bringing trash there. We didn't go with that. Right now, that's $580,000+. If you have read or listened to the news, the town of Herman, since July 1st of this year, has closed their transfer station. They do not operate it any longer. People take their trash or have people pick it up. Just a thought. I spoke to a lady, the director, I believe it was, of the Chamber of Commerce in Houlton. Houlton's where I grew up. That Chamber of Commerce right now runs the Midnight Madness, which would be a lot like Loon Fest. They run the parades. They run a potato blossom or potato harvest later in the year. The only thing the town does for them is pay them a stipend to help out. They run, they organize, they do all this. That's an event coordinator they did away with. Just a thought. Listening to the budget committees several times, especially the fire, especially the police. I've rode around and looked at the Public Works, Police Department. The equipment the Public Works has is top notch. They have a lot of new stuff, a lot of nice trucks. The Police Department, in my mind, mine only, and I worked in the 90s for the Police Department, town of Lincoln. They have too many vehicles. We have too many vehicles left over. I wonder what we pay in insurance and maintenance. We now have, Public Works has a painted former police cruiser SUV. They now have 2 full-size pickups. When David Lloyd was director, it was like pulling teeth trying to get a new truck. And we only had 1 truck. Now we have 2. But I wonder, and there's numerous retired cruisers sitting around the back of the Public Works. What do we pay on insuring all those and upkeeping all those vehicles? We never had them for years and years and years in this town. The police, and I'm not I'll tell you, I'm not anti-police, but we have doubled what we had for a force in the nineties. We were a safe town in the nineties. We had over 1,000 people more in the town of Lincoln, if you look back in the census, in the nineties than we have right now. So there is room to cut. It's not going to take place. You only have Councillor Ireland's option to consider, or the reduction that town manager has put forth. But there's things to look at. We have too many patrolmen for what we can support. It would be nice to have 2 officers in a vehicle at all times. But we don't have the revenue, we don't have the means in Lincoln to support that. Now, I mentioned Public Works, the police department. The one department that I see coming out on the short end of the stick is the fire department. If you look at their equipment compared to the nice truck the Public Works have, the numerous vehicles the police department has, they seem to have gotten the short end of the stick. And I personally, if I was sitting in the chair up there, would not cut personnel or anything from the fire department. But I think we can make cuts other areas, other departments, and that includes personnel, without compromising safety in this town. Because for years upon years, when we had a mill going, 300-400 people working there and life was good, we had less in these departments. So moving forward, I'd like to see some serious consideration in these areas. Thank you.
Bobby Storman, taxpayer. I just want to address the whole budget process. According to the town charter, the town manager's budget is the base, which the budget committee worked very hard to bring a budget to the town manager. He brought it to you all. We had a public hearing in June on it. And then David Arlen made amendments. I'd like to make an amendment. I'd like to make an amendment. I'd like to make an amendment on every line item of that budget. These were not simple amendments. So I don't know if the town manager or the town lawyer said, wait a minute, you guys didn't do that correctly. And we came back in July. July 6th, it was clearly David Arlen's budget that was being presented at this public hearing, which is against the town charter. Only the town manager can bring a budget. So my question to you, Mr. Clay, in the future, to avoid wasting all of our time, how are you going to assure that the council members are adhering to our town charter and doing this process the way it should be, instead of creating all this turmoil and the expense? I don't believe that our town lawyer is normally present at a town budget hearing. So I'm sure this is costing us a lot of money. If this had been done according to the town charter, would we even be here right now? How are you going to protect us as taxpayers and residents and make sure that you are all following the town charter?
Never encountered before. And yes, I admitted that I made some mistakes. We got some gaps. Sorry, but you know, it happens. But we are gonna follow the charter. That's why we're having these meetings now. Process is gonna go the way it's gonna go through next week. We are gonna follow the charter 100%. And the lawyer is here to make sure I don't screw up again. And that's a good thing, because now I'll have that knowledge going forward. But this has been a new process for me also, going through what we've gone through the last month.
Is there a requirement that all council members read the charter?
No, that's not a requirement. It's encouraged. Well, it's encouraged.
Thank you.
My name is Jerry Ireland. I'm a Lincoln resident and a Lincoln taxpayer. So everyone knows where I'm coming from on this. My taxes went up 39.5% last year. And it's not from an assessment. From what I was told by the town office, it was an automatic increase across the board in order to keep homestead exemption or something like that. So taxes have gone up. I'm not sure what was special about last year. The only thing I can pin down is looking at over the last 10 years, there's been an awful lot of spending, not very much assessing, and our revenues are down. Okay. I'll take a second for the town manager. I appreciate the work that you've done these last few weeks. I haven't been here, but I've watched every bit of it. You're not in a spot I'd want to be in, as well as some of the counselors. But I want to say thank you, because you probably don't hear it enough. It's a difficult job that you have. But back to my point on the taxes and the spending. I can't say I voted for everybody up here, but I voted for a good, way past majority of you. And I listened last hearing about how Kathy got so many votes over everybody else. Well, as a voter, I just want to put it on the record. Kathy, I voted for you because of your experience and what you've done in this town. But I also voted for a lot of new members because I felt the old counselors were not doing their job, and they haven't done their job for almost 10 years. And Steve, I'm going to say I appreciate everything you've done for this town for the last many, many years. I really do. And I'm glad you're still sitting here. But the mandate coming from me as a voter when I went in the booth and voted was a mandate. Whether my taxes go up or down, I'm going to pay my taxes. But the mandate is we've got a lot of people running around in departments spending a whole lot of money in this town. And it seems like the ruckus the last few weeks, the last few months is because we have new counselors that are all of a sudden not rubber stamping everything that comes through for a new budget, an increase in my taxes. These new counselors are not the problem. These new counselors should be respected in that they're learning a new process in this town to try to fix something that all I've heard from counselors over the last 3 or 4 years is we're kicking a can down the road. We can't get assessments. I know personally for a fact, as a builder in this community and surrounding towns, that the amount of revenue we are missing is enough to buy 10 new fire trucks. So the problem here in these last few weeks, honestly, is not this budget. I have my opinion. I don't think we should cut services that are important to the town. So some of these cuts, I think right now aren't prudent. Maybe next year or the year after, we need to fix the revenue problem and stop kicking it down the field for another year, for another set of counselors. The revenue problem needs to be fixed. If we have to take half the people out of the town office and help them fix this problem, that's what we should be doing now. Because this is the problem since the mill closed. We have new people living here. As a business owner, I experienced this through COVID as I watched people move into this town, buy a piece of land that I'm not even sure you guys even know exists, but it's here. Okay? I've seen it. We can fix this without chopping half of our departments away. But this is a wake-up call. These last few weeks is a wake-up call. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to agree with some of what's on these sheets. But the problem is a big one, and it's not just getting this budget passed. The problem is revenue, and the problem is we need departments to look hard. COVID's over. It ended a couple of 3 years ago. Those grants are gone, that extra money's gone, that extra revenue's gone. We need some serious accountability across every single one of these departments. It's not, we need to hire somebody that can assess. Let's brainstorm and come up with some solutions how we get this done. Because I'm telling you, we can all sit here. I've heard it for 10 years since the mill closed.
Please, yeah.
Lost what I was saying now.
I think it was since the mill closed. He's not talking.
No, I don't remember, but, since. Well, my point is being that. Well, the gentleman was correct about our reduction in population, okay? And I think recently in the last 3 years, there's been some increase from people moving here out of state. But I think we've lost that. We've lost that revenue. And I don't know what has been driving this force of people being afraid to reassess properties, because if it's done correctly across town, all of us, even with the higher value of our homes, will all see lower taxes. Lower taxes don't just come from a smaller budget. Lower taxes come from doing what should have been done for the last 10 years. And it's not just cutting on a budget. So I commend the town manager. I think we're not going to fix all this year. I think it's a good stab at it. I think we need to fix in conjunction the revenue and then go back next year and the year after and look at other ways that we can be more prudent with our town's money.
My name is MJ, Lincoln resident. I've written some stuff to say to you guys tonight, but I do just want to address a few things that I've heard here and there because I think it's important. I think it's really important to point out, Mr. Clay, I think it's very admirable that you've taken the time to say, hey, I made a mistake. I did something wrong. And you're willing to move forward and change it. I think a lot of times when people make mistakes like that, it's either not acknowledged, or people just write someone off. Okay, I'm not voting for them again. They need to go. They're making mistakes, but you're acknowledging what's been done to move forward and do what's better for this town. So I think that's very admirable. I want to thank Gordon for taking the time to write everything down for us, posting it online so we kind of knew what was going on. I want to thank the town manager for talking to the department heads and trying to see how he can meet them and also meet what the town is asking for. I do want to mention the last person that came up and spoke. No, I didn't agree with everything he said, but I think a lot of times when we're raising our voices, we're very passionate about what's going on and it's affecting our lives. And so sometimes that happens, as well as there's been a lot of comments about speaking to the mic, speak up, nobody can hear you, they can't hear you online. So I did just want to say that. But to get more on topic, last week we asked Mr. Ireland a series of questions about, your amendments or whatever. I kind of like she was saying, it's every single thing is being amended. That's a new budget. That's what that is. Whether we want to, whatever language we want to use around it, and that's not going with the charter, like other people have also said. And just a little background about me, it is like relevant to what I'm about to say, but I grew up in a church with a pastor for a parent. And I just want to share John 15:13 states, greater love has no man than this, that a man lay down his life for another. The Bible teaches that the highest form of love you can show is laying down your life for another as Christ did for you. A clear example of this are the firefighters standing behind me. They go to work every day to do just that. Prepared to lay down their lives for you. They run towards danger. They don't run away from it. They save people regardless of their religious or political ideologies. And if you don't even have the decency to propose a budget that gives them a living wage, proper benefits, and to keep them adequately staffed, like what are we doing here? As you can see, they're going to respond to something right now. It looks like, putting themselves in harm's way potentially. In Micah 6:8, it states, "He has shown you, O mortal, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you? To act justly,
What are we gonna do? Get in a
mercy, and to
friggin'
walk
Bible
humbly with
study?
your God." Are you guys walking humbly? And I'm asking this because a lot of you are publicly Christian, and so I feel like it would resonate with you. Are you walking in love and in mercy towards these departments and the community members who so desperately need them and appreciate what they're doing? Moving on, choosing to vote for Mr. Ireland's proposed budget rather than the town manager's budget, it's a tremendous mistake. This will take people's lives. We're not being dramatic here, guys. The town has come out in large numbers and have spoken over and over and over again. People will die. The people who protect our children as they swim to be sure they don't drown, the people who respond when we call for help have all spoken to you and made this clear. So I don't know why that's not enough. And I do kind of want to be clear that these statements, are not aimed at exactly every single one of you. There are people up here, as far as I'm aware, Kathy, Stephen, Gordon, you guys all voted against Mr. Ireland's budget. And I appreciate that you're doing what's right for this town. We may not all agree on everything, but we need to strive for unification. I've heard one of the firefighters say that as well. We want to address these issues. A multitude of people from all walks of life have come and given plenty of ideas on possible solutions. And I think most of our town council members have, the ability to do that, to have us be a unified front. David Ireland, I don't think you're one of those people. I really don't. I don't think you possess those capabilities. If you're willing to resign in that case, I'm sure this room would give you a round of applause and that might help our unification, but and lastly, there's a person who would have very much liked to be here tonight, and this is super important, so I really want you guys to hear me when I say this, that has asked that I, read out her written statement, kind of like someone did earlier with that business owner. Her name is Rebecca. I came back into the area of September 2025. I was surprised at how much Lincoln has grown and changed. Lincoln really is a beautiful little town. It definitely feels like the number of people here have tripled. This town needs to continue growing and thriving. There are ways to compromise and move things around so that these cuts don't leave negative effects on the residents and the town as a whole. Please remember, council members, that a town divided against itself cannot stand. There needs to be strong leadership on the council. David Ireland Jr., I watched the town council meeting this past Monday where you raised your voice and firmly and angrily addressed the public, stating that if anyone has something to say, to direct it toward you and to not drag your family into it. Well, I'm your sister and I have some things to say. You groomed me, you taught me from the age of 5, you raped me, and you raped your 5-year-old daughter. Yeah, somehow you make yourself out to be the victim.
Not a taxpayer.
Never been back. You're not gonna read that.
Don't need to chatter. No. Is there something new? You've been up once already. Yeah, Kim. Okay.
That was unfortunate. I agree with the gentleman that spoke earlier about getting the money that's owed would make a big difference. And I understand that that is being worked on. It's a shame that it hasn't been done. But I had called and asked because at the last meeting, I was told that there were no efforts to collect back taxes. And I spoke to somebody in the town office who was wonderful and spent quite a bit of time with me on the phone and explained that there is a process that's being followed, but it gets to a certain point when then the town treasurer has to move forward. We don't have a town treasurer. That is something that I think needs to be addressed.
We do.
We do now.
We hired one Monday.
We hired one
We
Monday.
did. Yep.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Well, that's okay, because I think that what the managers have done with this, what Wade has done with this new proposal in working with all the management heads is fair. And I just really think that you guys should consider that. I also think that you should consider the amount of people that have come in support of the town manager's budget versus the amount of people that have come in support of Mr. Ireland's budget. I didn't realize the charter said what it said about being simple, and this certainly was not simple. So I really, really would encourage you to accept the town manager's budget next week.
I had no intention of speaking, but I have a question. I'm Dee Zantier. I'm a retired physician and a Lincoln resident for a frighteningly long time now. Thank you for this new budget thing. My questions. I should get to that first. What exactly is happening next? Am I to understand that what will be voted on is the new, as it's described here, manager's budget amended on 7/15? Or is there actually choice left in what's being voted on?
There's choice.
There's choice left. That's very interesting. I think that we had some great input from people saying that we should probably focus on getting the monies owed to the town collected. To that end, I'm wondering about the small increase to assessment that was included, relatively speaking. Not knowing quite how that process works, it seems like the assessments need to be made on new properties at the very least. So I'm wondering about that. I guess the other thing that I just wanted to offer as you consider this, I have been a business owner. Theoretically, I ran a practice, but we all know that it was the office manager who just told me where to go and what to do. Everybody knows that. But theoretically, I've had the experience of running a business. I participate on a couple of boards for nonprofits involved in medical things like the hospital and such. And I know that I've heard people say over and over, if I ran my business the way you guys run the town, I'd be out of business. I would never say that. And here's why. Whether you're running a medical concern or you're trying to govern, it's not just a business. There are many business decisions you have to make, but you have a different responsibility, and you know this. You have a responsibility for people's well-being, for their overall forward-moving success, and to make this community thrive. And I just want to encourage you that this isn't a simple business. I know you know it. And I hope that if you are making a choice, that the current, as of 7/15, manager's budget makes sense. Sure would like to see the revenue expectations as well. Because that's real budget, right? So I want to thank you for tonight. I'm sorry I couldn't be here last time. Maybe I'm not sorry about that. And really very much best wishes for success here.
Thank you.
My name is Alan Smith. I am a
lifelong resident, born and raised here in Lincoln. My parents were from Lincoln, my grandparents from Lincoln. Raised my 5 children here. 2 of them still remain here, raising my grandchildren here in Lincoln. My brother Scott and I started a small business, Fasco Corporation, 40 years ago, right here in Lincoln. So this place means a lot to me. And I've kind of sat on the back burner, watching and listening as best I could as to what's been taking place here, and I'm concerned. I do want to take a minute and thank every single one of the people on the council and our town manager for the work that you guys have put into this. This clearly has not been an easy process. I know there's different opinions and feelings amongst the town council. I think it's ultra critical that you listen to each other, respect each other, and do what we need to do to get through this and get this behind us. There's I'm really concerned about the taxes. We've heard several people speak about how our taxes have skyrocketed compared to inflation. My daughter's place, 5 years old, 60.7% increase in 5 years. My place over 10 years, double taxes. The business, taxes are continually going up. I greatly understand and appreciate services. They are important. And there's a lot of, nobody wants to stand up here and say, cut the police force and cut the fire department. Nobody wants to do that. My house is on fire. I want 40 of these professionals out there putting it out. But at what cost? Are we getting to a point where we're not going to attract employees and families for the economic development that we're trying to get? If you move a business in here and they try to get employees in here and they can't afford to pay taxes, what about our own youth? What about the talent there that's moving out of town because they're seeing how high the taxes are growing and how quickly? I think that this is a this didn't happen overnight. We've seen the cost go up in this town over the last 10 years. And I don't think we're going to fix it in 1 year. I think we need a long-term plan to get our taxes back down and try to manage all of our services at an acceptable level so we can all feel safe and feel like we're covered. We can't afford to put a police cruiser, a fire department, and an ambulance on every street. That's just not real. I'd love to see it, but it's not real. I think everybody is looking for some answers, and I believe you're going to find the answer is going to be someplace in the middle from all of the discussions that have gone on, all of these budgets that have been presented. I believe you're going to find the answer in the middle. And I think you need to look hard at, it's been mentioned, getting all of the unassessed property back on the books and using that money not to increase budgets, but to lower the taxes over time. Give this 5-6 years and do some long-term planning. Again, long lifer for this community, love this community. I would like to retire someday. I've got 20 years building a house that I enjoy. I would like to be able to retire and keep my house and enjoy the lakes, the rivers, the snowmobile trails, the hunting, the fishing, everything I've worked hard for my whole life. I don't want to be one of those that has to sell my house because I can't afford the taxes, move to another town for retirement. Thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm Stacy Williams. I'm a taxpayer in Lincoln. Today with the Zoom call with the state, we recognize there's an assessing shortage. I asked them to increase how often they offer the classes, which is only 2 weeks long. I asked them to increase the opportunities for people to test. I also asked them to talk to Kurt Ring, so maybe they could bring a class here. And then I also asked them for the 10 years graduate so we could try to steal one. Thank you.
Wait, you get. Oh, wait, oh, you get, oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. I am a fellow taxpayer and resident, registered voter. Oh, sorry.
The other one. The other one.
How about it?
Try it again.
All right, yeah.
That's better.
So a lot of the people, I think, on all sides have asked for some transparency and some clarity. The process is here. Pretty awesome that you got a laptop here and made that information available. A lot of work you've done there. There's a lot of ways we can leverage the existing technology to make this a little bit more of a friendly experience. I think there's plenty of space in the manning of the budget for us to be.
Can you
able
get
to-
closer to the mic so people can hear you?
Yeah. So I guess bottom line, I'm just asking to have some focused effort in the work we're doing this next year to create a little bit more transparency via the tools that we have with the electronic website and whatnot. So there's ways we can make the information that's relevant for the decision makers here so that you all have clarity on the board and for the people in the town here to have a little bit more of a app-like experience to receive the information and to participate with some of the relevant bits, because a lot of people have come up here and had misinformation on how they're describing the things that they're seeing. So I think some clarity in that would be amplified by some improvement in the tools and the process and the administration.
Thank you.
Just two things. A, I'm not saying this is perfect, but it does say down here how to read that. So it's right there in the corner. It may not be the way you're used to doing it, but it talks about the percentages right there. So I just want to point that out. I'm not saying it's perfect. There's still maybe something wrong, but that is right there. The second thing I would like to say is on the revenue, people are talking about the revenue tab. I apologize. I skipped right over that. That was on there. That didn't change from the last presentation when we had. The revenue tab was still the same. I was trying to go through areas where potentially we're cut or we looked at cutting. Revenue was something that wasn't touched or couldn't be touched or was already based on contract agreement. And yes, that very much can be affected if we don't keep services the way they are. There is no question about that. But that's the reason why I didn't cover the revenue tab, because there was nothing in there for me to cut. So I apologize for that.
So a couple things got brought up about the police department. I guess one is staffing. So I understand that the police department probably was smaller back in the 90s. I think you can look at policing now as a completely different animal. I didn't police in the 90s. I policed, I guess, in the early 2000s. And from what it is, even in the 2000s to what it is now, it's a lot different. And I think the things that the officers have to deal with, the stress they have to deal with, being able to go to calls. I can tell you just an example the other night. Officer Morales was working by herself. I was at the council meeting. We went to I had to leave the meeting to go to a call that somebody pointed a gun at somebody else, middle of the street. Happened, right? So there was that. She was by herself. That's not safe. We go to domestics by ourselves where we're trying to get people separated. It's not safe. We're trying to get to a point where we can have at least two people on. And like we've explained in other meetings, even the staffing that we have to get to that full staffing, there's still going to be times where people are on vacation, people are things. So either you have to backfill that with overtime and create more stress for people not being able to have time off, or you need to increase that so that you have the right amount of people to work. So that's really important. And I think we don't look at that. People don't understand, yes, this might be a safe town, but there are unsafe things going on in this town. You just don't see it every day. And so I can tell you that when these officers are on by themselves and going to some of these calls, that other night, that shooting, the pointing the gun thing, right after the meeting, I had to go to a burglary in progress with Officer Morales. She was still tied up with the person that she arrested for the gun. After that, we had to find somebody that was supposedly being attacked in the woods, but he was on probation. We had been looking for him anyways, and they got a probation hold on him. So we had one officer working. I ended up transporting to Bangor with this person so that we can continue that. We have people that are officers that are on call all the time because we haven't got up to that staffing that we need to be at to make the officer safe and to make the community safe. So we have 5 vehicles, that the new vehicles that we pay the leases on, right? The other vehicles that we have an SRO vehicle, which I don't know what we're gonna do with that right now. I'm actually putting in for a grant, or to get the SRO back. The detective has a vehicle that he uses, while he's here, and we have a training car that we use. And that saves from going back and forth from the academy. So that's a vehicle that we bought or we have, we don't owe anything on it, and it's cheaper than trying to pay mileage for somebody going back and forth from the academy or going back and forth from training. And I think sometimes we say that we see cars sitting in the parking lot. Yeah, because there's not officers, we don't have the right amount of officers working yet. So getting up to that staff is hard. And then you see the cars there because there's only one officer on when there should be 2 officers on at least. So that kind of, I hope, answers that.
Yep.
Question?
Thank you.
Bobby. So tonight, we're having a public hearing on A, B, and C. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so when we come back on the 22nd, are you voting on A, B, or C?
Yes.
All of them?
Explain further.
Whoa. Yeah, we're gonna take one of the budgets and vote on them.
Which one? Is that what we're doing tonight?
Tonight's just a public hearing on them.
Okay, but
Yes.
So because there have been questions about the petition that was previously filed, that I understand garnered more than ample signatures, and so you're able to certify the number of signatories. That is a petition that has been filed because it is directed at the June 22 vote. I would say if you vote the same way on July 22 on column B, which has been identified as the budget that you approved on June 22, and that was the subject of the budget hearing on July 6, and now you have the figures both for departments and the total for that. I expect you'll see another petition with a similar number of signatures. I am here as the town attorney because I am somewhat concerned, having served this town for more than 30 years. For a little bit of perspective, Tom Johnston served for 5 years. He also served as an attorney who provided services in the labor and employment area to the mill. I want to say 3 things tonight. One is, you're right, there is no mill. That's the reason why you have to invest a little bit of time and resource in redeveloping that mill site. The council knows because it's been discussed in executive session, because there are development proposals that are actually wondering if the town will stabilize as to budget and town manager. And that is significant investment that will hit this town in just about a year's time. It won't happen if we don't stabilize. Second point is, I think this has been a really interesting outing for the town manager, all of them, for the budget committee, and for the public, and especially for the council. I know this has strained the relationships that you share as counselors. Do I think it's good to have engaged discussion on the budget? Yes. But here's the thing I don't want to see. I don't want to see another referendum petition, because I'm pretty certain, based upon a review carefully with 5 attorneys in the state of Maine to get their sense as to what the charter provides for, that there are supportive points to the petition, and then there are questions. This could well end up in litigation. If that's what a majority of this council wants, you're going to have this in front of a judge. And a judge is going to have to determine, what do I do about this question related to the petition and related to the budget adoption process? As the town attorney, I never thought I'd be in this position, but I'm recommending to you substantially, choose column A or C to get this town back to normal. If you don't do that and you adopt column B, we're going to be in a position where we're going to be spending money. And it's not going to be on town staff and town services. Unfortunately, it's going to be on attorneys that will have to present their case before a judge. And I don't think that's what the charter contemplates. 602 is a very sober process. It says the authority of the town council shall be limited to the final determination of the budget across departments. It does give you the power to amend, but there's a distinction drawn in the law between amendments and revisions. An amendment is a simple way of making adjustments that say, if there's something irregular, defective, or needs correction, you amend the budget. It doesn't say you do a budget revision. Similar to the distinction between a charter amendment and a charter revision, if you revise, that sets in motion a change to structurally change the charter and town government. That requires a charter commission. You are frankly in uncharted waters as a council. I want you to get back to a safe harbor and allow this town to move forward. Yes, services are being provided. Yes, there is cost to running the government. But the caution I always heard, both to ministers and elected officials, is listen a lot during the first year. Before you act or speak, listen. And my concern is you all need to listen to each other. As the gentleman spoke far better than I could, hang together, or this town's going to fall apart. I don't want to see that happen. This is a good community, good people. And I think you have the opportunity to come together now. And I hope on the 22nd of July, you do that, because in answer to the gentlelady's question, I'm concerned that if a petition has to be brought, it will get the number of signatures it needs, and then you will be into a process. Do you want a judge to decide the charter? Do you want a judge to decide the budget of the town of Lincoln? I don't think the judge will be very happy about getting that question. And if I were the judge, I'd be particularly unhappy being asked to interfere with a legislative process. But that's how divided this became. I'm sensing that with this town manager, happens to be a member of the cloth, may be a very good thing for this town right now, because he's ministering for this community in ways that I don't think he intended. But mostly he's not bringing religion into this. He's trying to do his job as a good man, as a good person who's trying to bring you together. Listen to the amount of work he did within short order. He's learning too. We can all learn from each other. And I would commend the council for your efforts. I understand why proposals were made, but now it's time to settle down and adopt a budget. Thank you.
and the town manager. If we pass the town manager's budget next week, we have 10 months. Pull up our sleeves, work together as a council, work together as department heads, and really try to figure out how we're gonna right the ship. We have said, I have heard that our public safety, they go in harm's way. There's no question about it. A flagger that's flagging for $17 an hour, they're at risk. An automobile might hit them. An electrician is at risk that they might be electrocuted. A logger is at risk that they might fall and slip and cut their artery and bleed out. A truck driver is at risk. So I don't buy in all this hype. People have used this as an example to divide this town. And it's very disheartening for me because I have called this community my home for 21 years. And I want to do what's right. I served in the legislature for 6 years. And I tell you right now, the disrespect that we get as elected officials by people making allegations to our co-chair. I apologize, Dave. My opinion, that person should not even be into this arena anymore. It is very disrespectful that past people have got us here and they have driven an initiative to divide this town by a recall. People think that I got elected last fall. A lot of people have come out and said, I can't believe you got elected with the other three. They don't stop and realize that I got elected a year and a half ago. So people, they're using anything to drive a wedge into this community. And I respect each and every one, but for someone to stand up behind that podium and preach, but then again, they do just the opposite. That don't set well with me either. So, Mr. Chairman, I respect what you've done. I respect everyone in this council. Dave, I respect you as a brother in Christ. And I respect everyone. Don't matter if they're atheists or whomever they may be. We need to get this passed. We need to sit down with the department heads moving forward and say what is right for the taxpayers. We have a revenue problem, and I have been preaching that, just like Irene's lovely late husband, Jeff Gifford, has. We have a revenue problem, and we seem to just kick that can. But, Mr. Town Manager, we really need to start that process, and I think we have started it. Thank you.
Document. It's not something that you put on a shelf.
Your council managers, let this be a living document as we go through the year and we clean up the assessing and we clean up the different things that have fallen apart. We've started the process. We have a new treasurer. So that check, there's one. We have a company that has given us a proposal to help with the assessing. Check, let's approve that contract and move forward. But don't wait until April of next year to say, oh, it's budget time. What are we going to do about the budget? Start tomorrow and look at the budget. That's my takeaway.
Aye.
The communications director, doesn't he know you can't even hear?
Thank you.
A background of the events that actually happen in this town. Because a lot of you apparently don't understand how much work and dedication goes into these events. It's easier said than done, giving them to the Chamber of Commerce. Years ago, a town councilor, Sharon Hannington Sibley, started an events and tourism committee. That committee has blossomed into what it is now. Our goal was one event every month. And from working all these events, I can honestly say that I have met people from as far as California, from Canada. They come into Lincoln, they spend their money locally. If you're opting to get rid of the communications director who runs those events, you're going to lose every single volunteer that you have. And that's not a lot right now. I don't see many of you volunteering for events, so you don't know how they're run or how they are organized. Have any of you attended an events and tourism committee? Most likely not. I've attended most of them, as long as my job allows me to. We try to get volunteers for every single event. We post on Facebook, we ask around, and we can't get the volunteers. By wanting to pawn everything off onto the Chamber of Commerce, who is in the rebuilding process themselves, is going to be detrimental to our economy. People aren't going to come into Lincoln. Loonfest was rebranded Loonfest because the numbers showed that would bring in people from far away, and it has. Thank you.
And that is that there are three options for the budget. Okay, my understanding is that what we'll be doing next week, there are three options of the budget, A, B, and C. But my understanding was we vote on one of those three for each department.
He heard your request that he go to work on the town manager's budget, and at the request of Council Chair Clay, he rolled up his sleeves with the department heads, not just a few of them, all of them, that are still here. And so this budget was presented, it was referred to by Town Manager Schaefer as the compromises. What I think is important when you have two very different views of a given issue, that you see if you can find an approach to get to the middle. So my hope is that maybe one or more of the four who voted for the June 22 budget would either make a motion or support a motion to adopt the very genuine effort. I know from having talked with the town manager how much effort he put into this. And I think the council's message was heard by him, and that he has worked hard to get to this point. And so I would hope there would be a motion, a second, and then a majority vote for the work that he's done. It is the last best effort of the town staff that is trying to help move the community forward. And I do agree with both Councillor Hannington's and Councillor Moissan's observations that the budget should not be viewed as this is fixed. No, a budget in every organization, private and public, is dynamic. And I think there are plenty of further opportunities one of the things I think about is in our justice system, dissents often become majority opinions. So just because you don't get the vote this time, you might get the vote next time. You have to all stay friends with one another. And it's hard, but I think you have worked hard. And I would say to Councillor Hannington, Councillor Rojo, Councillor Ireland, Councillor Clay, Councillor Moisen, Councillor Street, Councillor Rand, you have stayed together for the town's best interest. Now it's time for action. So yes, I agree with Council Chair Clay. A movement will select one of the three, offer it, and hopefully it'll get a majority vote. We'll see.
It's a public hearing at 7:55. Item 7. Motion been made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor? 7-0. You keep that. Okay, okay. See what I can do. Here and here. She